That might work.
I know some people, I mean, it's time to say that, but, I mean, I understand it's long days, whatever, but, I mean, parents can wait, they can take a picture.
All right, give it to us. Hope it's not too tough.
No.
All right.
20% of people in Duval County have a disability. 60% are family and caregivers. As a community, we continue to struggle in overcoming barriers daily. Even on the heels of the 20th year anniversary of the signing of the American with Disabilities Act, ADA. What is your vision to ensure physical accessibility and effective communication to all programs, facilities, and services in the city of Jacksonville?
Man, I feel your pain. Let me tell you something. I've been, and it was a terrible thing that happened. I had a brain aneurysm, and I guess it was about 82, and I was left blind and crippled. And so, when you find yourself in that situation, it's going to be enough to scare you to death. It did me. All I could think about was getting back. So, should we make things more available? Absolutely. We've got to work on that every day. But that's something we get up with every morning. I know when I was blind and crippled that I got up with it every morning, and I was scared pretty bad. But I had no choice but to struggle through it. That's what we're going to have to do in this case, is to struggle through it. I know Audrey's probably got certainly more and comprehensive plans than I do, but that's because she's a hell of a lot brighter than I am. So she's got a brain in her head, I've got a pea.
That's not true.
So the two of us compared to one another, I'm sure her solutions was better than mine. But I do feel your pain, and I know what it's like to get up every morning. I can't tell you as much as I do it. It's a challenge. Every challenge is difficult. It's an uphill battle. But we get up with it every morning, and we deal with it every morning to try to get on through the day.
Well, and you know, when I was working for Mayor Delaney, Jack Gilrup led the disability division of the city, and he did a really good job of that. And he was such an advocate for enforcing the Americans with Disabilities Act, making sure that businesses were accessible, making sure that our sidewalks got curb cuts and got that special coating where people who are blind could see, making sure that we worked with the nonprofit community, like programs like ARC, to make sure that people can work, that there's job coaches, that there's abilities for people to get employment and live productive lives, just like you do at Everbank. And so I think it takes a mayor who says it's important, disabled people are an important part of our community, it's an important part of our diversity, they're part of our community's self-worth and self-image, and I want to make sure we have a strong voice at City Hall that intersects with the nonprofit community and intersects with people in our disabled community that are citizens to really tackle the obstacles that you're talking about. I'd love us to have a reputation of being the most ADA-friendly city in the country. And we've got some good companies, as you well know, like CSX and others that are really stepping up to the plate to be part of that. So I want to continue the good work with the nonprofit community. It's important that the mayor's office have a strong voice for the disabled community as well. And have you met Mr. Lee, Jason? Warren Lee, Jason Hamilton?
You too.
Listen to your story. We want to make sure that we can facilitate all disabilities in our city government, make sure that whatever it is that needs to happen, make sure it can happen, and it has the ability to happen, and it will happen. As Audrey said, we all have a special place in our heart for people with disability. I know that my Marine Corps buddy, he just upon my leaving the Marine Corps, he got in a terrible accident and broke his nose, so he has disability. So I understand that there's challenging days and there's challenging times when you don't want to go. But I'm also reminded this of something that my good friend said. He said, if you can look up, you can get up. And with that every day, I know that even the challenges that we face on a daily basis, I know that if you can look up, you can get up, certainly. And we want to embrace everything that's happening with you. As far as ARC is concerned, we want to make sure that there's jobs available for you and work hand in hand with you and make sure that our office have a special attention to these. And American disabilities is one of the greatest things that we have to have. We have to have that component to connect with our city government, and we will. Certainly. We certainly appreciate you.
Jason, tell these two gentlemen how long you've worked at Everbank.
Well, almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Do you have a pension?
Yes.
It ain't like
I
the
told you she was much smarter than me. You need to stick with Mrs. Moran on the really tough questions.
He's a star. Jason's a
So,
real
I've been
star.
there, and I know what a disability is like, man. It's cool. You get up every morning with it, you fight through the day, and you do the best you can. I've been there. I was lucky I recovered. I had my vision back, and I walk again, but a lot of people don't. And that's the sad part is what can we do? You know, I never really even appreciated like handicap parking or anything until I was. I never realized the importance of a handicapped bathroom until I was. And now, you know, my views changed different, but it came not from me figuring it out, it happened to me. And I realized, oh my God, these are very important things that we have to do.
Right.
And bless your heart for being over there 10 years working at it.
Yeah.
Great.
You got a better track record than I do, man.
So where's the other two candidates?
They're talking to
They're
you.
talking to you.
Uh,
You can go grab them.
Yeah.
Go grab them.
Go grab 'em. Bring them up here. Put them in the hot seat.
While we're
Oh, wonderful.
And I just wanted to ask you guys, if one of you were mayor, how would you feel about making sure that there was representation on all of the boards and committees, as far as having someone on each of the boards with a disability, so that you can have that viewpoint?
I can look at you and you know I don't need to answer that question. I've been there with the black and blue hands and doorways that don't fit and everything else. Yeah, you're right.
It's definitely.
What you need to do is make sure you have a wide universe of people that you're looking at when you make these critical appointments. And people with disabilities are part of that universe. But it's more than just whether or not you have a disability. It's what's your background, what you're going to bring to the table, what that particular board and commission needs. But one thing that I'm really committed to is really opening up that universe of people that we look at when we're making appointments to boards and commissions and saying, let's just not have the same folks again and again. Let's really make sure we've got a wide network of people who are smart, interested, engaged, and want to be involved. And you can help us identify folks for that, which would be wonderful.
Absolutely. What she said. I understand it is very, very important to be part of the process, especially when you
As
have
mayor,
a
I would
disability.
want to make sure that
Also,
no one is discriminated
more
against,
times we
that you
feel
have
like we're
access
not
to all
part of the process.
programs
So to be
and services.
it's that level of
It's very, very
importance
important.
that
You
comes
know, the
with
American Disabilities
and
Act
making decisions and being on
is
top of
important.
decisions.
At the city
and
level,
I think we need that.
I
It's
know
vitally
that's been one of the
important
issues over
from
the years
the
with
disability
the
side
community,
as well
giving them
as
access.
from the mayor's office.
I believe you should
I'm in
have
100
access.
agreement.
I believe you should have the same opportunities as everyone else. I believe that.
Yeah, because I think it's a big thing. You know, we've come a long way, and a lot of people with disabilities, we've had our decisions made for us for a long time, and we really feel, especially with the independent living movement, that it's a nothing about us without us. That's right. And we just want to make sure that whoever's in office agrees with that philosophy.
1633, St. Vincent de Paul founded the Daughters of Charity, and the Daughters of Charity to create a mission to serve the sick and the poor, and orphanages and education. And then in the 1800s it came to this country, 1809 actually, with this mission of the Daughters of Charity to serve the sick and the poor and those in need. This is disabilities, but it's the same notion of caring for
Wonderful. Do
them.
you serve as an expert witness in cases?
They then started St. Vincent's
I
Hospital
have
in
not had to do
1960.
that, but I do.
And I joined the board because in the 1930s, an 11-year-old boy, his father died in a terrible accident. He was the oldest of 6 children. He had no place to go, and he went to St. Vincent de Paul, a foster home. And he stayed there until World War II started. Then he was able to join the Navy, had a career in the Navy, and he had 3 boys. I'm his oldest son. And my heart has always been in a place to serve the sick, the poor, and those in need. And that's why I volunteered my time for 6 years on the St. Vincent's Foundation and for 7 years in the St. Vincent's Healthcare Board because of our mission to help the sick and the poor. With the disabled, I want to assure you my commitment, where my heart is, and what the policy would be to ensuring that we comply with the Act and that we help the disability community. And because that is at the foundation, the heart of where I am. And in the past, I want you to know something. I've done this on my volunteer time for one reason.
Our ILRC, for example, the people that work there are so overwhelmed with everything because of all of the cuts and the budget and money and everything diminishing the resources. So
sometimes people don't think that public views of fiscal conservative has a heart, but I don't think it's inconsistent to be a fiscal conservative and have a heart.
JLA
The Gateway
law
Community Foundation, I'm vice chair of that board.
that supports deaf people,
I care about drug addicts.
and that's also been cut, those fundings.
I just want you to assure that.
And there's, many resources. So what can you do? What are you able to do to solve those problems? And we want to find out where the money's going and who's responsible for the money. But I'm just curious how you guys are going to be able to help these specific areas. I know it's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. And
It's hard, but how can we solve that? But do you see a disconnect amongst the deaf community and the political government system? I see a huge disconnect between the two. I feel like there's a line, that can't be crossed, and the resources out there. Grant writing is also really important. I understand that. So I'm very concerned about resources here in Jacksonville for deaf people and the deaf community. Deaf just have a very big disconnect, and they don't have a lot of respect for the state government. And we need to really establish a better rapport with the deaf community. Anyways, how will you solve that? Your opinion?
Yeah, I think we need a mayor who has experience in the nonprofit sector. I have led a nonprofit for the last 3 years, and I understand the important services the nonprofit sector provides to the citizens in our community. And so I think having a mayor who understands government and the nonprofit sector partnering to meet the needs of our community, including the deaf community, is the best way to start. And I've done that in my job at Salzbacher. Budgets are tight everywhere, but it's always a matter of priorities. And my priority is quality of life for all the citizens across our community. And that would certainly include the deaf community.
That's really, I've seen everything that you were talking about in the debate and homeless people and jobs and other things, but nothing related to deaf people and struggling with work and the system and still, I work at a restaurant, but it's really poor money and the opportunities are poor. Oh, and VR just, they can't help.
Yeah.
Here in Jacksonville, the businesses, it's just such a huge disconnect. It's very frustrating. I'm a really smart person. I have really good reading skills. I'm highly educated, but I struggle. So I'm curious of how much attention can you give? What can you give to the deaf community? I don't understand all that's involved. I know it's a tough job.
What I was telling the last questioner was we really need to make sure that we have a strong voice for the entire disabled community in City Hall so that we can partner with the nonprofits community, look at grant funding, make sure we have priorities for resources, but it's having that voice who's looking out for those constituencies. That's very, very important. At Salzbacher, we have deaf people come through. And that is always a concern. How do we make sure that we communicate with them effectively, and how do we meet their specific job needs, which are very, very tough, because everyone needs to be able to work, and especially making sure that we are focused on opportunities for a wide cross-section of skills and abilities. Just because you're deaf doesn't mean you're not really smart, and doesn't mean you can't hold a very responsible, good job, more than what you're holding now. So we need to be working with the business community to create incentives for them to do just that. I always think of CSX as a good example of that. They're a good employer in that regard. They are very intentional about reaching out to the disabled. And I would like to work with the business community to do that.
CSX?
It's the railroad. Is that the easiest way to say it? The railroad.
Oh, okay, okay, I got you. Okay.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going.